Rob was sitting in the cramped coffee section, idly flipping through the pages. He wasn't even reading them anymore. He was looking around the little shop and thinking about the apple slice of all things. He was still having the nightmares about the killer, but his Kosianth demons hadn't made any appearances since he'd put it there. Could a piece of fruit really repel such a monster? Had these monsters really created a race of half-breeds through ritual ceremony or even rape? Could they be visiting them and hunting them down? Was it only them? Could he himself be one? If the book turned out to be bullshit, if a single dream contained a single demon, while a bit of apple with the skin still on it was under his pillow, he would find Mr. Grazer and beat him to death, not just because of the apple, but for making him add all these bogus extra worries on about his own identity on top of everything else. It couldn't be true. He must be reaching. His brain clicked again. After Rob went to a nearby ATM and withdrew the maximum allotted daily limit, he made his way to the diner where Sue and Michelle would be finishing the last 2 hours of their shifts. They gave him a giant slice of apple pie, on the house. He picked at it for almost 45 minutes when he saw his plate was finally empty. The entire slice seemed to have snuck its way into his belly while he thought things over and over in his head. Their shifts ended sooner than he thought they would, and they headed home. On the ride there, they asked him why he was being so quiet and if everything was okay. He assured them that everything was fine and that he was just tired from not sleeping so well. That seemed to satisfy them. After they were home and unwound, Michelle decided that she had earned a nice, long, hot bubble bath. Rob and Sue were watching TV with only mild interest, and each of them was draped over the overly stuffed arms of the sofa. During a commercial break, Rob said to Sue, "You know how grateful I am, don't you?" She straightened up and stretched her neck and said, "Of course." "Good, because I really, really am." He sat up and stretched and immediately jerked forward from the pain that the spasmed muscle in his side had caused. "You okay?" "Yeah, my side and back are just a little tender." "Lift up your shirt, let me see." "What? No, I'm fine." "Just do it." He reluctantly stood up and figured it would just be easier to take off his shirt than argue, so he did. There was a large, lightly yellowed bruise with a darker purplish red ring around it. She looked horrified. "Sue," he said, "in a couple of days it'll be gone completely." She stood up as well. "It's right on your ribs. I don't know a ton about medicine, but I think I can tell if a bone is broken." She placed both of her hands gently on the bruise. "Does that hurt?" she asked. "No." "Good. Take a couple of deep breaths." He took 3 and paused in between the inhales and exhales. He winced a little from the tightness. She really didn't know what she was doing, but everything felt fine. She placed her ear to his side and told him to take deep breaths again. He did. She didn't hear any funny sounds like clicking or grinding or even fluid in the lungs. "I guess you're okay, but we should have it looked at just to be safe." "That's all right. I'll start worrying the first day it doesn't get any better." "If you're sure, but don't be all macho and hide it. If it doesn't get better in a day or two, then can we go to the free clinic?" "Oh, I hate that place." He saw her face and dropped the argument. However, he didn't just drop it because of her expression. He knew in a day or two that it wouldn't matter, so why even fight it? "Fine, I'll go in a day or two, but I really am all right." She smiled and hugged him. "I'm glad you're okay," she said a little choked up. "I was so scared, Rob. I thought that was it for you." He leaned back to look into her eyes. He wanted to say something like, "I'm not going anywhere," but he couldn't. Instead, he found himself leaning in to kiss her. Just a millimeter before their lips touched, she pulled away. "I'm sorry," he said, flushed with embarrassment. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry." She shook her head. No, it's okay." "No, it was stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. Rob, sit." He wanted to just bolt from the room and hide forever, but he took his place on the sofa. "Look, Sue, I didn't mean anything." "Yes, you did." She sat beside him. "I think it's sweet. You're a great guy. It's just... Oh, I don't need to hear this part." He rested his elbows on his knees and hid his face in his hands. "Your life is in danger just by being my friend, and here I am trying to make it worse. I'm so stupid. You could get any guy." "Yeah, true, but I don't want any guy." He turned his head to look at her and rested his cheeks on his knuckles. "You want to go solo forever?" "No, and I'm not solo now." He sat up, took a deep, sharp breath, and said, "Huh?" "Rob, Michelle and I aren't just roommates." "What? What do you..." "Oh." "Oh is right." "Really?" "Really." "Wow." Sue giggled with relief. Then he thought of Michelle. "Should you be telling me this?" "Yeah, she's fine with it. I'm the one who doesn't think that it's anyone's business." "I guess so. I've been living with you and I didn't even know." "Well, more important things have been going on lately." Guilt washed over him. He didn't tell her because then she would simply give him the don't feel bad speech. I'm not giving you guys any alone time. It's fine. We're not uncontrollable horn dogs, you know. I know, but... Besides, we find time for our moments. She gave him a sly smile. You slut, he joked. I see. When? No, don't tell me. She laughed. It's no big deal. When her eyes made their way to the television screen, she said, Let's see if anything good is on. She flipped through the channels. There wasn't. Soon after, Michelle came out in her bathrobe, toweling her hair dry. Hey, Rob said to her. Hey back, she said, sensing the awkwardness. She looked at Sue. What's up? Rob knows we're great big lesbo carpet-munching dykes. There was a shocked silence just before they all busted out laughing. Michelle sat in a dining chair and pulled it beside the sofa. Way to go, Sue. Now we have to kill him. She smiled at Rob. Don't worry, we use antibacterial soap, so you shouldn't catch the gay. He chuckled. I'm fine with it. I'm just a little surprised. See, Sue, you told someone and you didn't even burst into flames. Har har, she said back. That night, Rob lay awake again while Sue and Michelle were completely knocked out. He again got up and opened the door and found the light switch, but much more quickly that time. That time, however, he did not head for the kitchen right away. He got dressed and quietly packed up everything he had brought over that he needed. He left the movies and CDs and other extraneous entertainment items alone. He would have no use for them. He grabbed a flyer for some benefit that Michelle had brought home and turned it over to its blank side. He could not find a pen, so he grabbed a Crayola from the box. He absently grabbed a blue crayon and wrote his goodbye note. He got the suitcase that was in Sue's closet and put his clothes and toiletries in the book in. He was amazed how quickly he was done. For some reason, he was hoping it would take longer. He had a feeling of security and friendship and warmth with Sue and Michelle. He knew, though, that those feelings were threatened and would not exist at all for him, and probably never again, if he didn't do what he needed to. He stood in the living room with the suitcase in one hand and the note in the other, taking one last look around. He leaned over and gently set the suitcase down. He reached into the wallet in his back pocket and pulled out 25 $20 bills. He wanted to leave more, but he might need it. He left the bills on the coffee table on top of the note. The tabletop was relatively clear of clutter, so he figured they'd find the note fast. He walked over to the hook on the wall, which was in the kitchen, and grabbed Sue's keys. Michelle would still have her keys for the front doors and everything else. He hadn't planned on doing what he did next, but he opened the fridge, after pocketing the keys, and grabbed a fresh red apple from the crisper. He carried it in one hand and picked up the suitcase in the other. When he got to the front door, he opened it and set the suitcase in the hall. He flicked off the lights and locked the door behind him. Michelle woke up first. She still felt exhausted. She looked at the digital clock beside the bed. It was only 9:10 in the morning. She was too thirsty to go back to sleep, so she grunted with frustration and got up. Rob's blanket was empty. She frowned at this. She looked over and saw Sue, still breathing heavily from sleep. Quietly, she opened the bedroom door. Rob wasn't out there. She was a little concerned, but made her way to the kitchen and got a glass and filled it with tap water. The concern that was rising in her overrode her sleepiness. She checked her own bedroom after knocking lightly. He wasn't in there either. She would let Sue sleep a little while longer, and then get her opinion of what to do. There was no way he could have gotten into trouble while they slept next to him. Still, she was worried. She would watch a bit of TV to distract herself. The money and the note were right beside the remote control. Her hand froze halfway to the remote, and she picked up the bills instead. What the hell? She whispered. She then picked up the note and read it. Dear Sue and Michelle, I'm so sorry. I have to do this. It doesn't seem safe at all for me or for anybody lately, and I have to do something about it. I promise I'll bring the car back soon. Please understand. I love you guys. Rob. Michelle was stunned. For a moment she just sat there. Then she called out, Sue? Sue! Sue stirred from her sleep and opened her eyes. She yawned deeply and noticed that something smelled in the room. It smelled like rotting fruit.